I just walk in the argument too one-way, why you mad? Girl, why you a sick? I do not want that. Came home to you only, you stuck like glue. If I caught that Hellcat, girl, you get one too. For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you? I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
Alright, welcome back. Velocity here. Talk about another series. You might have heard us just talk about the Knicks and Heat, or if you skipped over it, we're going straight into the love when my camera doesn't focus. Anyway, going into the not Heat, the Celtics versus the
76ers.
Sixers. Excuse me.
My home team.
Yeah. So. I don't know who to root for out of these two teams. I mean, I hate Boston, so I guess the Sixers. But don't really love rooting for the Sixers either. It's pretty brutal. Anyway, interesting series so far. We had a really good first game without the MVP, Joel Embiid. And then Joel Embiid returns, and they lose by 30. I don't think that's Embiid's fault before we even say anything. I think that's just more of the Celtics being very frustrated and angry with how the first game went and just going out swinging in the second game, get to the early lead, and kind of never take their foot off the brake. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah. For this Celtics and Sixers series, just based off those two games, first of all, that first game, I was doing this the whole time. Who remembered this celebration from James Harden? We saw vintage Houston James Harden game one. I'll say I think that game was very important because watching that game, I said this is a man on the path to redemption because he needs to redeem himself. Because I don't know if you guys remember my epic rant on him last year when he straight up quit on the 76ers in their elimination game against the Heat. Even though they were my team, the way it went down. Embiid basically at 50%, and Harden only takes 2 shots in the second half. He quit, but he had the ultimate green light in game one, and like he closed out that game like epically, like in an ISO situation with Al Horford guarding him high on the perimeter. In fact, Horford actually played good defense on him out there, to be honest.
Please, before we move to the next topic, I just want to throw something out here because the amount of Boston fans and just straight up basketball fans who aren't rooting for the Sixers specifically, that were flaming the Celtics and Al Horford specifically for being the one guarding James Harden on that. A, he had no choice but to switch. B, Al Horford, as a center, even at like whatever he is, 500 years old, is one of the best perimeter defenders as a center in the NBA for his age and his size. And B, I would say that was as good as defense as you were going to get without physically fouling James Harden and letting him take 3 free throws for the win instead.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say.
I thought that was so asinine that so many people were like, oh, well, it's because we had Al Horford on James Harden. You had a near 7-footer on him and played the best defense on the shot to shoot, and he had to shoot over his head.
Well, as you and I know, there's a lot of basketball fans out there, but not enough people who really know the game of basketball. That was great defense from Horford. Not good, great defense in my opinion, but as we know, sometimes there's just better offense, and Harden had the hot hand that game, so just had to live with it. But now after watching game two, as like putting Embiid out there in the lineup, obviously between Embiid being there and him not being on the floor, obviously do change your offensive game plan. And Embiid, I mean, he just came back. I don't remember what his exact injury was on his knee, whether it was an ACL, MCL thing, or meniscus, but it was his first game back, and so we didn't necessarily expect too much out of him. But as Evan said, like the Celtics, they definitely come in with intensity because I'm sure they were pissed off they lost that previous game. But I was, to be honest, ignoring the box score because I knew the Sixers were gonna lose that game. But I mean, they already stole one in Boston. But a few question marks actually rose in my mind. What's it called? Watching the difference of the two games. Is it far-fetched to say that maybe James Harden is better without Joel Embiid?
I think
And
I don't know.
my
Go ahead.
second, I have a second question that's kind of related to that. Could it also be a matter that Doc, in from a schematics point of view, hasn't figured out a way to necessarily maximize both of their strengths?
Um, I think to answer the first question, I don't think he's necessarily better, but I think the second question's a part of this too. I think Doc hasn't found the necessary spacing for both of them to kind of cohesively exist on the court in a I don't know, in a nice flowing motion. So, but at the same time, I think that if it's just James Harden on the floor, eventually there's gonna be double teams, there's gonna be a lot of shifts and defense that you're gonna put to guard James Harden. Um, I think the issue is James Harden's I don't know, lack of identity in his game. I think that one day he's like, all right, I'm going to be the scoring guy. I'm going to put up 40. And then the next game, all right, I'm going to go dish out 10 assists. And I don't know. He's capable of doing kind of both and or an in between, but I feel like he does just commits to one or the other, and then there's no in between. Or if he, like the other game, he shot like 15 shots, he only made two of them. We have a night and day James Harden who shows flashes of his Rockets self, shows flashes of his net self when he's distributing, and then he has, um, even the Warriors game 6 against Rockets self where he shoots like 2 of 30. So it's like there's no consistency whatsoever from James Harden. And then I think when you put Embiid on the floor with them, Harden kind of understands that he's not going to be exactly the main focal point, and he's kind of sometimes overly forcing the ball to Embiid. But I think Embiid also, I don't know. I think Embiid wants to take a little pressure off himself and give the ball to Harden too at the same time. But I think Harden kind of understands it's Embiid's team first. So I don't know. I think part of it is there's too much of a focus of it being on Embiid's team. When no disrespect to Embiid, phenomenal player, better player. Embiid's not on the court all the time though, whereas James Harden has been at least more healthy than Embiid this year, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's time to at least let Harden take the lead, even if that means Embiid kind of falls a little bit slightly in the background. Because it's okay if Embiid falls into the background. You know he's going to dominate down low. You know he's going to get a lot of the rebounds that Harden's putting up from his shots. You know he's going to get a lot of the putbacks. You know he's still going to find chances. He's still going to get his 20 to 30 points per game. Whereas if you're focusing on Embiid solely, Harden's the one that kind of suffers from that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that there's no cohesiveness there, and I think it is in large part due to Doc Rivers. I think I don't think he really has gotten good cohesiveness from his two best players on any team since Boston. Like Boston's the last time he's gotten a real good balance of chemistry. Like in LA, he struggled too.
My observation between the two games is I saw two completely different styles of play.
Yeah.
Without Embiid's presence there, they were, I mean, in a way forced, but or maybe preferred it this way. Guys like Harden, they played a much faster paced game. We saw a lot more like fast breaks, them run the open floor more, like more full court offense,
Yeah.
should say. But when Embiid is there, because like the sets are run through Embiid, like Embiid touches the ball on every play. Like he's a ball dominant center. So when feeding the post, it's a lot more half court oriented. And I don't know, I guess maybe with Harden, maybe he's a guy he has trouble like finding his rhythm playing like a solely like half court game, especially if Embiid is the one like even though he's Harden brings the ball up, Embiid's the one who really initiates the offense. So Harden has trouble like finding his rhythm because of that. So and I've said this since they've signed James Harden. Despite the skill set both of them have, I think their pick and roll game is so weak.
Yeah.
Like I don't see them playing it at all, but they really could abuse teams with it. So that's the cohesion that we're talking about right there. You bring up a good point. You see, I feel like Harden actually would play well with a big man like Anthony Davis. Because while Anthony Davis does have the skill set of a modern big man to like dominate the ball and stuff, he's also comfortable enough and capable of dominating the game of playing like a traditional big man, being more off the ball, setting screens, rolling to the basket, just getting putbacks. I just don't. Embiid, I mean, given like his history in the NBA and how he's accustomed to playing and what the Sixers have had around him, he's always in a way always had to have been a ball dominant center to initiate the offense. So I think he's so accustomed to playing that way that I don't know, maybe Doc maybe doesn't have the courage to like make that change, or he's just saying, oh, Harden needs to just force himself into a and no, Harden just has to like find a way to work in this system as opposed to like, trying to make tweaks in Embiid's game to accommodate Harden's strength. Because like as you said, Embiid, I mean, he's the biggest, like in terms of height and strength and mass, the biggest man in the league. If Harden were to be the one like initiating like a lot of shots out on the perimeter, Embiid could definitely clean up the glass and get putbacks because guess what? He grabs the rebound. No matter what, they're gonna send help down low, and he draws so much contact and gets to the free throw line so much. Like he's still gonna get his.
Uh,
So maybe you're onto something there. Maybe Harden does need to like initiate the offense more and Embiid play a bit more like a traditional center. But of course, naturally, if like the fast-paced game, the ISO game, if that's not working, you can always count on him to like, all right, give me the ball. I'm gonna make something
yeah,
happen here. I think they need to find that balance between the two play styles instead of playing one particular way.
I agree. The balance has been a killer, and I don't know. I think to me, with Embiid, I feel like in any Harden, I feel like can't thrive in any system he's put into. That's not anything against him. That's just his style of play. I feel like Embiid's style of play can fit into almost any offense you run. So no matter what offense you're running, he can find a way to thrive in it. Whereas Harden, you're going to need to put the ball in his hands at some point. I think that
Yeah.
if the Sixers were able to kind of convert their offense to a way that's similar to the Phoenix Suns, whereas you're kind of I understand Embiid's a lot better than DeAndre Ayton before we even say anything. I understand DeAndre Ayton scores, but DeAndre Ayton still scores around 20 a game. I'm saying if you let Embiid do that 20 to 25 a game, but you let him maybe get a few really important possessions in, you let him distribute a little bit, or even do a little bit of what Jokic does more, while also kind of putting him in DeAndre Ayton-like places, while you do what the Suns do, and you kind of focus on your shooters like Booker, Kevin Durant. I mean, you have James Harden, you have a guy to me that I consider a young up and coming star in Tyrese Maxey. I consider him to
Yeah.
be very good, and he's being
Again,
underutilized.
fast fast break points. You see,
So
when you get to play that fast-paced game, that's when he's at his best.
like you have these guys where like if you let's say you compare them to the Warriors, you have like these guys who let's be real. If the Warriors replaced Tyrese Maxey and Jordan Poole, you switch spots. Tyrese Maxey's still going to get close to 20 points a game on the Warriors. They're going to find ways to use him, find open shots for him. The thing is, they're not giving their scorers chances to score. Tyrese Maxey deserves the ball more than he's getting. And I'm not saying that you got to take the ball from Embiid, but you got to find other ways to score other than just throwing it to Embiid every time or forcing James Harden to throw up a ridiculous three. You have good players on your team. Yes, you have PJ Tucker on the team. Real quick, too, before we even the next comment that I see that PJ Tucker is useless is going to make me lose my mind. Oh, he shoots 0 shots. He plays 35 minutes. Why is he even on the court? He is a defender. He plays defense. That's what he is on the court to do. So the next Instagram comment I see on ESPN, why is PJ Tucker in? That makes no sense. He doesn't even shoot the ball. I'm going to flip out.
Well, those comments were like in a response to him, like, and I guess cursing at one of his teammates there on the bench. Like he was like, "What were you talking about?" or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
why is he talking? It's not like he scores the ball. I'm
They were
sorry.
they were literally talking about a defensive play too, a defensive play, not even
Yeah.
offense.
And guess who their highest scorer was for the game, too? Jaylen Brown with 25 points. No one scored over 30. And neither of PJ Tucker's assignments scored that much. So to just act
Yeah.
like he was a liability the whole time was laughable. I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, I think one of the things that the Sixers really suffered from was I think they could have really used Kevin Love to kind of be a rebounding insurance to not make Embiid be forced to stay down there the whole time. Because Tobias Harris is not a big guy. And if you were able to kind of get a lineup in there where you could have had both Tobias Harris and Kevin Love together while Embiid's on the floor, or you're rotating between the three and like this triangle a bench rotation, I feel like they would have been way better off. But now you're sitting here and you have a smaller lineup and you're not even utilizing it. You're still forcing everything to Embiid. Yes, he's an MVP caliber person, but you have a small lineup around him. You need to utilize that. You need to utilize the speed of it, the fast breaks, the shooting, and they have not done that. That's my big thing. I don't know. Sorry if that doesn't sound accurate or.
But to be honest, the way knowing Embiid's abilities, it's not that he's incapable of playing a faster paced game either, like,
No.
running the floor. Like, remember, we saw it last year while Ben Simmons was sitting out, and Harden wasn't on the Sixers yet. We saw a lot of times where we saw Embiid pushing the ball down the floor, was called running. Like, I would think I've never seen Embiid like run the floor that much. Him bringing the ball down, and to be honest, he always had Maxey with him, or he would be off the ball and Maxey would be the one pushing the ball.
And
Like,
it feels like
I don't get it.
It feels like every possession I watch too. It feels like there's some sort of clause in Embiid's contract where he's required to touch the ball at least once on every offensive set. It does not have to be like that. I understand how talented he is, but if you have the open shot and you're a good player, take the open shot. I mean, I think the other thing is they don't really have a confidence in distribution when it comes to a point guard. You have both Tyrese Maxey and James Harden swapping between 6 to 7 assists per game, and then one of them's usually having 1 or 2 assists, and the other one's scoring more points than the other. I think you got to have a guy definitively decide, I'm distributing the ball, and you're going to be the one that scores more. But they haven't.
Majority of the time, it's Harden distributing and Maxey just scoring, though. Like, Maxey doesn't strike me as a playmaker at all. I see him as a scorer and defender.
I would like to see Maxey shoot more, because I think he shot almost 50% in both games. He did pretty well.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, what he really does best, though, using his speed to, like, blow past defenders and get to the rim.
Yeah, and he's a good defender, too.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I think he did a lot for him to kind of fall into the background in the playoffs. And I think that your team got so many wins on that win total for your standings through different styles of play that you are no longer using in the playoffs. And you're looking very one-dimensional.
That's why I'm really thinking, like, it must be a Doc Rivers thing. Because let's be real, Embiid does not strike me as a player who's, like, uncoachable or unwilling to, like, adjust to his teammates. Because remember, like, people talk about how Jimmy Butler was, like, a cancer in the locker room. Jimmy Butler, like, is a vocal person who's not hesitant to call out his teammate. He will call out Embiid. Like, there were plays where Jimmy Butler shouted out to Embiid, shoot that ball, or pass, and Embiid will listen. And when he's on the bench, Jimmy will come up to him and talk, and Embiid, he would respond.
Yeah.
Like, and he said it. He loved Jimmy. Like, Jimmy challenged him to, like, be the best he could be. So that's why I think it definitely is a failure in Doc Rivers' part. I cannot stand watching coaches who don't make adjustments. Like, I don't understand it. Like, what is your job?
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a Sixers fan, so I guess it's different for me. But I'm at a point where the tolerance is nearly zero with it. Because the Sixers have been in the same loop for the last 4 to 5 years where it's like you have this MVP center and you have this talent that's loaded around them and you have these expectations and there's either an injury or some sort of coaching issue every single year that gets them eliminated in the second round or the second to last round before they make the finals. And I mean, it's got to get to a point where you make a change, and that's either a player change, which I don't think it's Embiid's fault. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily James Harden's fault, or you got to do a coaching change. And I have just about had it with Doc Rivers. I think that he's doing the same exact thing that he did in LA, but no one's talking about it, where it's just consistently mediocre in every playoffs he's appeared in, and I cannot applaud it. I can't. I mean, when's the last time he was truly successful in the playoffs? Boston? He has not done anything to truly distinguish himself as a top-tier coach in the playoffs specifically in the last 5 to 6 years. He has done nothing to make a change to make it.
Do you think it's a matter of, like, this modern style of basketball that, like, he's just a not good coach under this style of play, but, like, previous generations he would have been better at it?
I mean, it could be. I think that goes across all sports, football, basketball, anything. I think, like if you look at the football, Andy Reid, the coach for the Chiefs, he's been one of the longest tenured coaches for the last 20 to 30 years. But he he's one of those people that is very much a player's coach. He's going to sit there, he's going to look at your strengths, he's going to look at your weaknesses, and he's going to decide and decipher which strengths that he should adapt to. And as you could see, Mahomes has done very well very early. I'm not saying it's because of Andy Reid, but he has been able to maintain success with younger stars after being with older stars. And while other coaches don't usually do, some coaches usually don't do that too well. Where I think with basketball, I'm not saying that. The thing is, Doc Rivers, I feel like his teams have been borderline finals worthy roster wise, but he never has taken the team to the finals. Tom Thibodeau, I'm going to throw out there as a coach that has coached a lot of old people. He doesn't switch his ways much, but for each team he's been given, he's been fairly competitive for where they should be. Because on the Heat, I think they only had Jimmy at the time. And then the Timberwolves, maybe a little bit under expectation because he had Jimmy and Towns. But my whole point is you have not seen any improvement from the Sixers.
Yeah,
none.
We haven't.
It feels like they've plateaued for the last 4 years. I've considered them one of the top 5 to 6 teams for 4 or 5 years, and you've not gotten any better or any worse. It's like, where do you want to go from here? You want to just stay being like that? And then we have these comments from Embiid, and I'm not saying it's Embiid's fault. I understand his aggravation because the fans are aggravated. Fans want to win. And he's saying, we've been a perennial playoff team every year, and the fans are mad. They have to understand, Embiid said that, right? We've been in the playoffs every year. I think that was Embiid.
Yeah, I think he said that. He said, "Well, would you rather not make the playoffs?" Something.
And
I guess something.
I understand what he's saying. It's just I understand the fans too. You've been stuck in the same spot for 5 years straight, and it feels like it's been the same script every time. There's some sort of serious injury in the first round or two of the playoffs, or the coach is making terrible decisions late in the game. So, and then we got or the coach ends it with blaming Ben Simmons. I'm not saying Ben Simmons is right, but you can't just throw everything on Ben Simmons. You made mistakes too. And I said that last year, and I think that still stands. I think that Ben Simmons was an issue that series, but he was not the only issue in that series. I thought Doc Rivers was a lot of the issue too.
I know, but you know what it is? A particular play, like, he just has something so blatant. It's one thing if he just straight up played bad, but
we all know the play.
Like that. We would have never ever thought we would see an NBA player period do that, and it makes it worse. He's 6'10".
Yeah, we all know the play. We've all seen the play. It's just
I think that blew anyone by. Like, how are you an NBA player?
I will say when it comes to basketball, football, Ron Rivera is a really good example on the Washington Commanders too. To me, as someone that I don't know, I like to observe the coaches and the way that they coach and their styles. I don't have respect for throwing your players under the bus first before yourself as a coach. I think that even if it wasn't your fault as a coach, it is you at the end of the totem pole. You take that hit every time. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's your job as a coach. So seeing Doc Rivers do that, he's done that once, and then you had the guy on the Commanders, Ron Rivera, who said that clearly it's a quarterback issue with Carson Wentz. I don't like that. I don't respect that because sure you're being honest, but at the same time, not only are you telling the fans that you don't believe in that guy, but you're also saying to your teammates too, because all the team's watching too. You're saying to your team, don't believe in that guy because I don't believe in him either. So I think that's a bad look, and that's not how you should handle it.
And on top of that, regardless whether they make those comments or not, the players are the ones who are under all of the scrutiny.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that Doc Rivers maybe outgrew his tenure in the NBA. Maybe that's just me. I just think that he is not currently with the current style of the NBA, and he cannot adapt to it.
He used to be one of my favorite coaches in the league, but I'm about done with him now too.
And I think me and you both said that this could be great for the Sixers when he first signed with them, but it's just, I don't know, it's starting to feel more of the same from like the Clippers, where it's just mediocrity, or not mediocrity, it's just, seeds 2 through 4 over and over again, over and over, and then just never getting past a certain threshold.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. That's my take on Doc Rivers. And I think Embiid and James Harden are 2 of the top 10 players in the NBA. Embiid's top 3 to 4, maybe top 5. James Harden, to me, is close to the top 10, maybe top 12. depending on what form he's in. But I don't know. I think they're all. I think Harden doesn't love Doc Rivers. I think Embiid can kind of just tolerate him. I think Embiid is very tolerant of anything that happens, just in terms of anything for the franchise, anything for the team. But I think Harden's pretty much over Doc Rivers, and I think a lot of the locker room is.
I can tell you this: Sixers fans are done with him. Doc Rivers.
I just
that
think
I know for a fact.
I think if the Sixers get eliminated this round, I think that you got to hold them to the same standard as Budenholzer. I know Budenholzer was a first-round exit, but Budenholzer also brought home the finals in the last few years. So, I mean, if Doc gets eliminated the second round, not even the semifinals, you got to fire him. You have to get rid of him. You cannot keep him.
I agree.
So, it's interesting. I just don't know who you hire. I mean, now you have Udoka has just been hired, so that was the main candidate. Now he's the Rockets coach. Which I'm curious to see how that goes. But do you have anything you want to add about the series?
Sixers, you guys better win Game 3. Like Embiid, you're coming home to the fans to show your MVP trophy. Sixers are winning Game 3. I'm calling that. Embiid's going to have a monster game, I think.
I'll say this. If James Harden shoots over 38%, and Tyrese Maxey has over 18 points, the Sixers will win. I think those are the two keys. So if you can keep Harden in a decent spot of shooting, and you get Maxey the ball enough, I think that Embiid, Tobias Harris, the rest of the team does its job. I'm not really worried about PJ Tucker. I know he's going to defend. But I think as long as you can get point guard and shooting guard scoring, because I think that's where you're lacking. Well, not lacking, listen. The game you lost by 30, Harden and Maxey combined for 25 points. That's bad. So I think that you need to get the point guard and the shooting guard into scoring rhythm and shooting rhythm. And then everything else will come naturally with that, whether it's Embiid, Tobias Harris, pick and rolls. Got to get the shooting underway, though, and got to get it hot. I think that the Sixers should just go all in for a power forward in the offseason. Like a real power forward. Just throw everything into it.
I get something else I've been paid for the past couple of years, too.
I'm sorry. I'll ask you this. Would you... I'm not saying that it would ever be offered, but would you trade 3 first-round picks for... 3 first-round picks and... I don't know, who's one of your best bench players?
Shake Milton. Let's just say Shake Milton.
Yeah, 3 first-round picks and Shake Milton for Sabonis. Would you do it?
Yes.
I agree, because I think the next 3 years, that first-round pick won't be relevant if you had him and Embiid next to each other.
Not for process, man. No.
And I don't know. I think there's a few deals. You could probably get someone like Sabonis or similar. I mean, all I'm saying is Paul George was traded. Paul George was traded for what, 4 first-round picks? So I don't think 3 was that much to ask for with Sabonis, or not like ridiculous when talking about Sabonis. So I'm just saying, I think the Sixers are at a point where the rebuild is over. You need to start throwing picks towards winning.
Yeah.
Got the roster for it. You just need to add, the extra talent. You lose 3 or 4 years of picks. You're going to be good
like
for
the Lakers.
Yeah. It's just, you got to get to a point where you're a box office franchise. You're probably one of the top 8 franchises in the league in terms of like popularity and viewership. You got to get the ball rolling. It's interesting too, because the Knicks probably felt the same way, and the Knicks have done something completely different where they haven't pushed for all-star talent. They've gone for role players they felt could take another step. Like Brunson, I think they expected to be a good starter, but now he's become a borderline all-star. But I don't know. Sixers are at win now mode. Knicks are at building still, in my opinion. So is that it?
Yep. So she wrote.
All right. Hope everyone has a good week. I hope everyone enjoys the playoffs. We'll be talking about the West maybe tomorrow. Talk about the Lakers, Warriors, and Nuggets versus Suns. Sorry if I overjumped the conversation at all. I felt like I talked a lot. Anything you want to take away before we exit out of here?
Yeah, the NBA playoffs for our favorite time of the year. No, we went on another very long hiatus, but you could be expecting like a somewhat consistent content from us like for these next upcoming weeks.
Yeah, at least the playoffs will be around for sure. Um, with that said, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week and everything's going well in your lives, and we will see you next time.
To me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you.